Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching this out there on the World Wide Web. This is Jeremy Geelan for SYS-CON TV. We are here in New York City. It is 8th Cloud Expo. I have with me Andrew Hillier from CiRBA. And in between the noise, we're going to find out just where you guys are at. Thank you for joining us, Andrew. CiRBA.com. Imagine I went there. What would the first thing I would see? It would place where you were in the ecosystem, I'm guessing. What kind of clouds are we talking here?
Well, CiRBA provides analytics software for virtual and cloud environments. And it's really designed to help you both get into the cloud and move all your workloads and migrate them into the cloud, and also manage the cloud so you achieve the optimal efficiency.
Now, that just sounds way too good to be true, because people will migrate you and they forget to manage you. You realize that was a pretty important missing link.
Yeah, it's actually interesting because we find that when people think about clouds, they think about self-service portals. That's what comes to mind. And in a lot of our customers, what we find is that's probably the simple bit. The harder bit is taking the existing workloads that are out there in the environment and moving them all into the cloud. And in fact, in most environments, the virtual workloads are now legacy workloads. So you have to revisit everything and get it all over into the cloud. And of course, once it's there, you have to make sure it stays efficient and is managed properly, which again is different than in a virtual environment. It's not the same kind of management paradigm anymore. So there's two big challenges around moving things in and managing them that people kind of overlook. They think if I have a portal up and running and people can type in their requests, then they have a cloud. That's only a small part of the picture. And
do you therefore have to do evangelism around this, or is the industry itself waking up to it?
It's waking up to it. We see the industry, as people get clouds up and running, they start to realize certain things, like they realize they have to have policies around where things can go. If they don't have policies, then people might say, well, can I put this internal or external? And nobody can make that decision because nobody's actually decided what the policy is for doing that. So there's certain things that are evolving, but we're finding generally people realize that once they have them up and running, they need to figure out how to get everything into it. That's kind of a pretty obvious first step that people realize. So we're not having to evangelize that too much. I think people are realizing it as they get to that point.
But would an engagement with you, for example, include advice on some of those decisions? Dudes, you don't quite need us yet. You need to decide X, Y, and Z, and then we'll talk.
Well, we do advise on that, but really it's all about the software. We provide a software solution. We're not really a consulting firm. So when people get our software, it's analytics software that you install, and then you start setting up the policies, and part of the use of it is to figure out exactly what these decisions are. So
it obliges you to make those decisions.
Exactly. It makes it very obvious because you can't really get to the next step without figuring out, well, why would I decide to put something internal versus external? For sensitive data or availability, all these things are things that you model, and then you get the right answer.
That's a nice way of using software to bring you toward best practices. I like that.
Yeah, in fact, we even find that people can use it to design their cloud instances. So now we can choose from a catalog of instances to say that you have small, medium, large. Here's the best one for each type of workload, and this is the software stack that you need. But if you don't have those defined yet, we actually help you define them as well. Again, by this very same software. So if you want to figure out what size should a large be, and then it will analyze your environment, and you can try different sizes and see which ones make the most sense. So it actually helps you design your cloud catalogs as well as then analyzing into them.
Tell us a little bit about CiRBA, Andrew, because the cloud has actually helped you in the sense that I'm not going to say it's overcomplicated, but it's quite complicated, and analytics is a great lens through which to view complexity. But what about the company itself?
Well, that's where we really got our start in analytics, and we kind of followed from consolidation analytics to virtualization to cloud. And there's always been kind of two uses of our product. One is to transform an environment. So I want to go from point A to point B. It could be a tech refresh. It could be virtualization, and now, of course, cloud. And then manage the environment on an ongoing basis. Akin to a capacity management, but a different style because it's more around placements and allocations. That's kind of the new school capacity management. So we've always done those two things. And what we find now is cloud really brings both of those together. So it's kind of interesting for us because cloud is a constant state of transformation, because you can move things around at any time, and it makes the most sense to do that, and you have to manage it on an ongoing basis. So it's kind of taking what has been two separate values of our product and bring it together into one. So it's really kind of a nice alignment for us.
Now, can people come and play in some kind of CiRBA sandbox to see how good this stuff is? How does it work?
Well, we generally do proof of concept for when we go into a customer. We can set up cloud instances. We use, for example, Amazon. You can spin up a CiRBA instance and play with it in there, but we mostly use that for training purposes. So if anyone wants to try it out, we can certainly facilitate them trying it, or a consultant could come on site and help them install it and try it out. So we have numerous programs that will let people run it. Usually it's run at the customer site, though. You can get up and running and hit your own environment and run it through the gears.
And should we be talking about, can we name customers or perhaps genres of people who've used you?
Well, we have several. I'll just talk more categorically. We have some pretty large integrator partners of ours that take the product to market for their customers, so they'll go in and provide services using our product as the basis. We also have direct customers, very large organizations, banks, airlines, telcos. We kind of cover all the different verticals and areas, federal government as well. So it's not really vertical specific. Everybody has the same problem, but they all might have different constraints and different policies that they would model. So if you're trying to move workloads around in a government organization, it looks quite different than a bank, right, and a bit different than an airline, for example. But they all require the same type of analytics.
So looking forward for you as a company, it's just a question of going after vertical. They're all referring presumably one to the other. Just endless growth.
No, yeah, absolutely, endless growth, take over the world. Well, we do see a slight effect in that when you do get a certain number of customers, of course, in any one area, then when you fine-tune the reports for that, what they like to see and the way they like reporting done, it does kind of make it scale up more and more. So we're seeing that in certain areas like insurance and financial services in general. But in general, it's kind of pretty much any vertical requires this type of technology. And out of the box, it will work for them. But again, we do see that for certain verticals, we are getting quite a lot of traction, and that does feed on itself.
And is there any vertical reach out there where you personally think, I just can't imagine why they haven't got in contact with us, because this approach it so lends itself to this area? Is there anything niggling away at you, thinking, I just don't get why they're not calling us?
Well, there's no one vertical, but I think the one we see a lot of activity in is in the banking and financial services in general, and I think. There's a lot of complexity, like you pointed out. There's a lot of requirement for this type of thing, and there's a lot of need to become very efficient. They have tens of thousands of servers, a lot of these organizations. So it's mainly an awareness thing, I think. A lot of people don't know this kind of thing exists. If they talk to analysts, there's not really a category that covers this type of analysis. It's not really capacity management. It's not really. It's kind of a newer thing. So there's not like they have a place to go to look for that. So a lot of people don't know they need it because they don't know it exists yet.
Well, they do now, Andrew Hillier. That's the good news. So go look at CiRBA.com, see what it is that Andrew's been talking about. Make sure that you get a hold of them, because I'm probably thinking you're going to recognize some pain points there. Do you think that's true?
I think so, absolutely.
Go do that now. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing with us this out on the World Wide Web.